The rain had been falling over the Oregon coast for 3 days without pause. It wasn't a storm, not exactly. Just a steady, patient drizzle that blurred the horizon and turned the ocean into a dull sheet of shifting gray. From the deck of the research vessel, Artemis, the water looked endless, almost flat, like something hiding its depth on purpose. Ethan Cole leaned against the railing, watching the slow rise and fall of the waves. He had spent most of his career studying deep-sea acoustics, tracking strange sounds from places sunlight never reached. Most of them had explanations: shifting tectonic plates, migrating whales, collapsing underwater caverns. But this one was different. It had started as a faint signal picked up by a remote buoy nearly 80 miles offshore, a low, repeating tone. Too structured to be natural, too deep to be human-made, at least as far as anyone knew. "Still thinking about it?" a voice asked behind him. Ethan turned. Marcus Hale stepped out onto the deck, pulling his jacket tighter against the cold wind. Marcus was the expedition leader, older, with the kind of tired eyes that came from years of chasing things that never quite made sense. "It's not just a sound," Ethan said quietly. "There's a pattern. It repeats every 37 seconds, exactly." Marcus nodded once. "We're close now. Another hour, maybe less." They both looked out at the water again. Somewhere beneath them, thousands of feet down, something was calling. By the time the Artemis reached the coordinates, the rain had softened into a mist. The crew worked quickly, lowering the hydrophone array into the water. Thick cables slid over metal pulleys, disappearing into the dark surface below. Inside the control room, the air hummed with quiet tension. Screens flickered with data streams, waveforms dancing across black backgrounds. "Signal's back," said Lila Chen, adjusting her headset. "Same frequency." Ethan moved closer, watching as the pattern repeated again and again. A deep tone, followed by a pause, then another. Always the same spacing, always precise. "Play it," he said. Lila hesitated for a second, then pressed a key. The sound filled the room. It was low, almost too low to hear properly, but it vibrated through the walls, through the floor, settling somewhere deep in the chest. Not loud, but heavy, like something vast moving slowly in the dark. No one spoke for a while. "It doesn't drift," Ethan murmured. "It doesn't change with currents. It's fixed." Marcus crossed his arms. "You're saying it's coming from one place?" Ethan nodded. "Directly below us." The room fell silent again. Then, from the speakers, the pattern changed. The next tone came sooner than expected, and then another. The rhythm was no longer steady. It was responding. They deployed the submersible just after midnight. The ocean had gone strangely calm, the surface barely moving as the small vessel slipped beneath the water. Ethan sat inside alongside Lila, the cramped space lit only by dim instrument panels. Above them, the Artemis faded into darkness. "Depth 1,000 feet, Lila read softly. Outside the viewport, there was nothing but black. The signal grew stronger the deeper they went. Not louder, but clearer, more defined. The pauses between tones felt intentional now, like breaths. At 2,000 feet, something appeared on the sonar. A shape, large, stationary. Ethan leaned forward. "That's not rock." The outline was wrong. Too smooth in some places, too angular in others. Didn't resemble any natural formation he had ever seen. 3,000 feet, Lila said, her voice tighter now. The lights of the submersible reached it slowly. At first it looked like a wall, a massive, vertical structure rising from the ocean floor. Its surface was dark, almost absorbing the light, with long, faint dot etched across it, lines that seemed too deliberate to be random. The signal was coming from inside it. Ethan felt a chill run through him. "Get closer." The sub moved forward carefully. As they approached, the lines began to shift. Not physically, but perceptually, like trying to focus on something that refused to stay still. The patterns rearranged themselves the longer you looked. And then the signal stopped. Completely. The silence that followed was worse than the sound. "Why did it stop?" Lila whispered. Ethan didn't answer because he had the sudden, overwhelming feeling that it had noticed them. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the lights flickered. The submersible trembled slightly as if a distant current had brushed against it. Ethan stared at the structure, his breath shallow, waiting for the signal to return. It didn't. Instead, something else appeared. Movement. A section of the dark surface seemed to open, not like a door, but like the water itself was folding inward. From within that impossible gap, a faint glow emerged, pale, soft, almost inviting. "Ethan," Lila said, barely audible. He couldn't look away. The glow pulsed once, and in that brief moment, he thought he saw something inside. Not clearly, not enough to understand, just the suggestion of shape, vast and incomplete, like trying to see a shadow without knowing what cast it. Then the sub's system screamed. Alarms filled the cabin as every screen flashed warnings. "Pressure fluctuation," Lila shouted. "We have to go up now." The vessel lurched as she pulled the controls. The engines strained, dragging them upward. The glow below faded quickly, swallowed by darkness. Ethan kept his eyes on the viewport until there was nothing left to see. No structure, no light, no sign that anything had ever been there. They reported everything when they surfaced. Coordinates, readings, audio logs. A second expedition was sent weeks later. They found nothing, no signal, no structure, no unusual readings of any kind. The ocean floor was empty, completely ordinary. Ethan never returned to deep-sea research after that. But sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, he still hears it, a low, distant tone, repeating, not from the ocean, but from somewhere much closer, and always every 37 seconds. Now, let's move on to the next story. The last stop on Route 17. The rain had settled into a steady rhythm long before Caleb Foster realized how far he had gone off course. It tapped against the windshield in soft, endless patterns, each drop sliding down the glass and distorting the world beyond it. The road ahead stretched like a thin black ribbon, barely visible under the glow of his headlights. Tall trees lined both sides, their branches leaning inward as if closing in, forming a tunnel of darkness that seemed to swallow the night whole. Caleb adjusted the heat slightly, trying to fight off the chill that had crept into the car. It wasn't just the weather. There was something else, something subtle but persistent, that made the air feel heavier than it should. He glanced at the GPS again. Route 17. That was all it said. No nearby towns, no gas stations, no intersections marked for miles. "That's weird," he murmured. He was sure he hadn't chosen this road. The system had rerouted him after a supposed delay ahead, guiding him off the main interstate without much warning. At the time, it had seemed harmless. Now, with the forest pressing in on both sides and no signs of life anywhere, it felt like a mistake. The radio crackled suddenly, making him flinch. Static filled the car, low and uneven, like a distant storm barely reaching him. Caleb reached out, adjusting the dial, but the sound didn't change. Then, through the noise, a voice. "Next stop." Caleb froze. The words were faint, warped, almost lost beneath the static. 17. The signal cut out as quickly as it had appeared. For a moment, there was only the rain again. Caleb swallowed, his grip tightening slightly on the steering wheel. He forced out a small, uneasy laugh. Probably just interference. But his eyes drifted once more to the GPS Route 17. And for some reason, that didn't feel like a coincidence. The rain grew heavier the deeper he drove. What had once been a soft drizzle was now a relentless downpour, hammering against the roof and hood of the car. The windshield wipers struggled to keep up, moving faster and faster, yet barely clearing the water before more took its place. Visibility dropped. The forest seemed to move closer. The world outside narrowed to a small, flickering corridor of light. Caleb leaned forward slightly, trying to see beyond the blur. His shoulders were tense now, his earlier calm replaced by a growing sense of unease that he couldn't quite explain. And then, something appeared ahead, a faint glow. At first, he thought it was just a reflection in the rain, but as he got closer, the shape became clearer, a street light, standing alone on the side of the road. Beneath it, a bus stop sign, crooked, rusted, barely standing upright. Caleb slowed the car without thinking. "Out here," he muttered. There was no shelter, no bench, no road leading away from it, just mud, trees, and darkness stretching endlessly in every direction. And then he saw it. A figure, standing just beside the sign, completely still. Caleb's breath caught slightly. The person was tall, wearing what looked like a long, dark coat. Their head was lowered, face hidden in shadow, as if they had been standing there for a long time, waiting. A strange feeling settled in Caleb's chest. Something wasn't right. Still, instinct kicked in. He eased the car to a stop a few feet ahead of the figure. The engine idled softly. The rain pounded harder. The radio crackled again. Last stop. Caleb's hand shot to the power button, turning it off immediately. Silence. Just the rain. He hesitated, then lowered the window slightly, letting the cold air rush in. "Hey," he called out. "You need a ride?" No answer. The figure didn't move, didn't react, didn't even seem to breathe. Caleb felt a chill run down his spine. "Hello?" He tried again. Slowly, very slowly, the figure lifted its head, but the light didn't reach its face properly, and whatever was there didn't look right. A deep, instinctive fear settled into Caleb's chest. He rolled the window up immediately, his fingers fumbling slightly against the controls. "Nope," he whispered under his breath. "Nope, nope." He didn't wait any longer. Pressing down on the gas, the car lurched forward, tires slipping briefly in the mud before gripping the road again. The bus stop disappeared behind him, swallowed almost instantly by the rain and darkness. Caleb exhaled shakily, trying to calm himself. "It's nothing," he muttered. "Just someone standing in the rain, that's all." But even as he said it, he didn't believe it. There had been something wrong with the way the figure moved. Too slow, too deliberate, like it wasn't reacting, but following a pattern. Minutes passed. The road stretched on endlessly. The same trees, the same darkness, the same relentless rain. Caleb kept his eyes fixed ahead, refusing to look in the mirrors. His grip on the steering wheel remained tight, knuckles pale under the dim light of the dashboard. Then, his headlights caught something in the distance. A flicker, a shape. His stomach dropped instantly. No. As he got closer, the shape became unmistakable. The same crooked sign, the same flickering streetlight, the same bus stop, exactly as before. And beneath it, the same figure, standing in the exact same position, waiting. Caleb slammed the brakes, the car skidding slightly on the wet road before coming to a stop. "That's not possible," he said aloud, his voice shaken now. He turned in his seat, looking back down the road behind him. Nothing, no turns, no intersections, no way he could have circled back. The forest stretched endlessly in both directions, unchanged, unbroken. The radio turned on by itself, loud this time, clear. The next stop, Caleb's breath hitched. The car doors locked with a sharp, mechanical click. Caleb didn't touch anything. His heart pounded violently in his chest as he stared at the figure ahead. It moved, slowly, one step forward, then another. Its movements were wrong, too smooth, too controlled, like it wasn't walking on its own, but being guided. The streetlight above it flickered erratically, casting brief flashes of light across its body. For a fraction of a second, the light held steady, and Caleb saw its face, or where a face should have been. There was nothing there, no eyes, no mouth, no features at all, just a smooth, empty surface, like something unfinished. The radio hissed violently. Final stop! The engine died. The headlights dimmed. The world seemed to shrink around him. The figure stopped just inches from the driver's side door. It tilted its head slightly, as if listening, as if deciding. Caleb squeezed his eyes shut, his entire body frozen. "Please," he whispered. The rain softened. The sound faded. Time stretched, and then silence. Slowly, Caleb opened his eyes. The road was empty. The bus stop was gone. The light, the figure, everything gone. His engine roared back to life without warning. The headlights brightened. The GPS flickered, then recalculated. Route 17 was no longer there. Only a straight path leading back to the main highway. Caleb never found that road again. No maps showed it. No records mentioned it. It was as if it had never existed. But sometimes, on nights when the rain falls just right, his radio turns on by itself. And a quiet voice, barely audible through the static, whispers, "Next stop." Now, let's move on to the next story. The cabin that wasn't there before. Evan Miller hadn't planned to stop. The rain had started hours earlier, long before the sun disappeared behind the thick line of trees that stretched endlessly along both sides of the road. What began as a light drizzle had slowly grown into something heavier, more persistent, an unbroken curtain of water that blurred the world and made every mile feel longer than the last. His headlights carved a narrow path through the darkness, illuminating wet asphalt and nothing else. No houses, no signs, no passing cars, just forest, endless forest. Evan adjusted his grip on the steering wheel, rolling his shoulders slightly to ease the tension that had built up from hours of driving. He had taken this route to save time, cutting through a remote stretch of northern Washington that his GPS insisted was faster. Now he wasn't so sure. The road had grown narrower over time, the trees leaning closer, their branches forming a loose canopy overhead. The rain struck the windshield in uneven rhythms, sometimes soft, sometimes sharp, as if something unseen was shifting above him. A faint unease had been building in his chest for the past 30 minutes. Not fear, not yet. Just a quiet sense that something about this road wasn't right. The GPS flickered briefly. Evan glanced at it. No signal. Great, he muttered. The screen went dark for a moment, then came back on, but the map was gone. Only a blank grid remained, with a small arrow marking his position in the middle of nowhere. He exhaled slowly. Just keep going. That's what he told himself. Just keep going until the road ends or reconnects. But then, through the rain, he saw something. A light. Faint. Warm. Still. Evan leaned forward slightly, narrowing his eyes. At first, he thought it might be another car parked off the road. But as he got closer, the shape became clearer. It wasn't a car, it was a cabin. Small. Wooden. Sitting just beyond the edge of the trees, partially hidden in shadow. Evan frowned. That hadn't been there before. He slowed the car instinctively. The cabin stood quietly in the rain, its single front window glowing with a soft, steady light. There were no other lights around it, no visible road leading to it, just a narrow patch of mud and grass connecting it loosely to the main road. Evan stared at it as he rolled past. Something about it felt wrong, not broken, not abandoned, just out of place, like it didn't belong to the world around it. He drove another 20 feet, then 30, then stopped. The engine idled softly, almost drowned out by the rain. Evan looked in the rearview mirror. The cabin was still there, unmoving, silent, waiting. He hesitated. It didn't make sense. He had been watching the road the entire time. There was no way he could have missed something like that. Not a structure, not a light. And yet, there it was. A thought crossed his mind. Maybe someone lives there. Maybe they have a phone. Maybe he could get directions, or at least confirm where he was. The idea felt reasonable enough, but the unease in his chest didn't go away. It grew stronger. Still, after a few seconds, he made a decision. Evan shifted the car into reverse. Slowly, carefully, he backed up until the cabin came fully into view again. The rain seemed heavier now, louder, as if reacting to his choice. He turned off the engine. For a moment, everything felt too quiet, too still. Then he opened the door. The cold air hit him instantly. The rain soaked through his jacket within seconds. Evan stepped out, closing the door behind him, and looked toward the cabin. The light inside flickered once, then steadied. He started walking. The ground beneath his feet was softer than expected. Mud clung to his shoes as he stepped off the road and onto the uneven patch leading toward the cabin. The rain made it difficult to see clearly, each drop catching the faint light and turning the air itself into a shifting veil. Evan kept his eyes fixed on the window. There was light, but no movement, no shadows, no sign that anyone was inside. "Hello?" he called out, his voice barely carrying through the rain. No answer. He took another step, then another. The cabin seemed slightly larger now that he was closer, though he couldn't explain why. The proportions felt off, like something had changed between the moment he saw it from the road and now. The front door came into view. Closed. Old wood. No handle. Evan frowned. That's weird. He moved closer, wiping rain from his face with the back of his hand. The window was just to the side of the door. He turned toward it and looked inside. At first, he didn't understand what he was seeing. The room was empty. Completely empty. No furniture, no decorations, just bare wooden walls, and a single light hanging from the ceiling. But that wasn't what made him step back. It was the floor, covered in footprints, dozens of them, all leading toward the center of the room and stopping, none leading out. Evan's breath caught in his throat. A cold, creeping realization spread through him. Something was very wrong. Behind him, the sound of the car door locking echoed faintly through the rain. Evan turned sharply. His car sat exactly where he had left it, barely visible through the rain and darkness. But something felt different now. Further away, the distance didn't make sense. He had only walked a few steps, maybe 10, 15 at most. But the car looked distant, as if the space between them had stretched. Okay? No, he whispered. He stepped backward. One step, then another. But the cabin didn't move away. It stayed exactly where it was. Close. Too close. The light inside flickered again. Evan turned his head slowly back toward the window. The footprints had changed. There were more of them now, fresh, darker, and this time, some of them were facing the window, facing him. His chest tightened. Every instinct told him to run, but his body didn't respond. He couldn't move. The light inside dimmed slightly, and then, very slowly, something shifted in the center of the room. Not a shape, not a figure, just a distortion, like the air itself was bending inward. The footprints moved, not all at once, but one by one, turning, aligning, as if something invisible was stepping forward toward the window, toward him. Evan stumbled back, finally breaking free from whatever held him in place. He turned and ran. The mud pulled at his feet, slowing him down, but he didn't stop. He didn't look back. The car felt impossibly far, but he kept going, step after step, until finally his hand hit the door handle. He yanked it open, threw himself inside, and slammed it shut. The engine started instantly. He didn't remember turning the key, didn't question it. He just drove faster, faster, until the cabin disappeared behind him. Evan never found that road again. He tried, more than once, but no matter where he searched, no maps showed it. No locals recognized it. It was as if it had never existed. But sometimes, on quiet nights, when rain hits his window just right, he sees something in the reflection, not clearly, just for a moment. A faint shape behind him, standing still, watching, and when he turns, there's nothing there, only the feeling that something followed him out of that cabin